Welcome back to Let's Be Frank, a storytelling podcast about an ordinary man that finds himself in extraordinary circumstances. It's also a story where you, yes you, the all-important listener, get the opportunity to be one of the fates that directs Frank's actions and decisions. When last we left off, our group of heroes were dining in the Leaky Stein in the corrupt kingdom of Auvendale. What happens next? Well, the majority of our players decided that the group should get to know one another more so that they can work better together. So Frank, taking a long drink from his stein, looked the group over and said,
"All right, guys. Time for some team building."
When Mog do that with human neck, humans stop moving.
Team building.
What's that?
It's an exercise where everyone gets to know each other better.
That's not what we call it.
No. Not like that. I mean, here.
Frank reached across the table and, retrieving an unused utensil, held it up before him.
This spoon is now the talking stick. I'll pass it to the person next to me. Then they can tell us a little about themselves, and when they're done, they'll pass it to the next person. Only the person holding the spoon can speak.
Is it magic?
Mog's still here, Talana, but Frank holds spoon.
Obviously, it's broken.
Typical.
No. It's not magic or anything like that. You're just not supposed to talk unless you have it.
Frank then handed the spoon to Talana, seated to his right. The longer Talana held the spoon, the more red her face became.
Good luck with that.
Talana quickly tossed the spoon to Mog, accidentally bypassing Joanna in the process.
Hey, isn't it?
Mog have spoon. You no speak.
Joanna pouted a bit and settled back into her chair.
Mog shaman for his tribe. Follower of Ashino Rundu. Mog also fierce warrior.
Barbaric. Ow!
Mog have spoon.
Ulrich held up his hands in mock surrender before sitting back, nursing his stinging lips.
Mog also acupuncture healing therapist.
Mog then passed the spoon to Ulrich, who then stood to speak.
I am Prince Ulrich Egond, second son to the late King Eren Egond. I am trained in 7 different forms of sword and hand-to-hand combat. I am also widely known as quite the ladies' man.
Yeah, Ulrich lady man.
Mog, I have the spoon.
Had too long.
Mog then plucked the spoon from Ulrich's hand and handed it back to Frank.
Well, my name is Frank. I'm an accountant. I have a cat at home named Beelzebub, and I'm not crying. I'm just allergic to most kinds of pollen and mold. That's why my eyes are watering and my nose is running.
Frank then passed the spoon over to Joanna, who had been skipped earlier.
All right, where do I start? I was born into royalty, but smuggled away at the last minute when my father's kingdom fell under the vicious attack of a foreign, insane warlord. When my guardian, my mother's handmaiden, died, I was forced onto the streets of a seaside port city to survive.
Miriam of the Rose.
Come again?
That's the title of the story which you're claiming to be living your past through.
Oh. I knew I'd heard that somewhere before.
Mog like
I think you're
stories.
missing the point of this.
Hey! I have the spoon of talking sticky thingies.
Joanna, where exactly is the spoon?
Everyone then realized the spoon was no longer visible, and Joanna's hands were under the table.
Trust me, guys. I've got it.
Oh,
Mog
God.
no get it.
Wait,
Why
what?
is it
Don't
always like
understand.
this?
You don't mean...
Suddenly, the air outside the inn was filled with the sounds of trumpets. Almost everyone in the inn began making their way outside.
Are the soldiers coming back?
No. That particular fanfare is used to announce the coming of the king himself. It would seem that he is preparing to address the people. We should go.
Agreed. Hearing King might help make better plan.
Absolutely. See, team building is all about communication. We listen to the king, we try to put ourselves in his shoes, try to see things from his point of...
Joanna inserted a spoon into Frank's open mouth as she walked by to head outside into the streets with all of the other locals. The group followed the flow of the crowd into a sprawling lower court area in front of the castle. The palace, known as the Left Hand by the locals, shone brightly in the midday sunlight. The trumpet sounded one last time before a pair of stained glass doors began opening on a balcony above the crowd.
Oh, I'm so excited!
You shouldn't be. He's not a very personable royal, unlike me.
Before anyone could correct Ulrich, the king stepped out onto the balcony, held up a hand for silence, and began speaking.
Citizens of Auvendale, the crown today, as always, works to protect you and ensure all her people thrive and grow. However, it has been brought to my attention that there are people within these very walls who are tirelessly working against these very goals.
A murmur went through the crowd, but the king continued.
So, not only have our former friends and neighbors to the south moved against us to the point of having to send my men, your sons and fathers, to defend us, but now we also have to face evils working against us here in our very homeland.
King seems serious and angry.
Oh, he is, Mog. But I'm betting he is just getting paranoid about possible spies, things like that.
Ulrich, do you think this will be an issue for us?
We're not working against him directly, so it shouldn't be.
It is for this very reason that I ask. No, I implore. If anyone hears or sees any person or any group that seems suspicious, report them to the guard immediately.
Everyone in the group turned their heads and looked at Frank in his Ralph Lauren shirt, his Tom Ford tie, LL Bean trousers, and Rockport custom casual dress shoes.
What?
As the crowds continued to cheer their king, Mog overturned an empty rain barrel and placed it over Frank. Our intrepid band of heroes then began sneaking Frank out of the courtyard as quickly as possible.
Must hide Frank. Frank Pennyman looks strange.
Hey, this is not how teamwork.
You're right, Mog. He sticks out like an orc toe in an elven sandal. No offense, but your feet are huge.
Point made.
So, Mog, I never noticed. Just how big are your feet?
Now's probably not the best time for that, Ioana.
Where are we going anyway?
I'm not completely certain, but I think I can see several different shops out of the barrel hole here.
We have to get him out of his world's clothes and into something less conspicuous.
Ioana linked arms with Frank after Mog pulled the barrel off of him.
You guys don't know fashion. Besides, I get a discount here.
Ioana dragged Frank into the nearest clothier while the rest of the group waited outside.
So, how come you want to get discount here?
Oh, Mog, it's best you don't know.
No, really, Talana. How's she
Let
get...
it go, Mog. Just let it go.
After a short wait, Ioana exited the clothier's door alone.
Friends, may I present the chosen one?
And there was a short pause before Ioana turned to the door and, opening it, began dragging Frank outside.
Ioana, I can't go out like this.
Aw, come on. It's not that bad. You'll grow into it.
As she thrust him into full view of the group, Frank lowered his head a bit. His helmet sat a bit wobbly on his head. 2 leather straps crossed over his bare chest, holding the weight of a short sword on his back. A thick belt with a few pouches held up a pair of slightly baggy pants. His feet were in leather boots that almost came up to his knees.
Gods, man! Has your body ever kissed the sun before today? I've known women whose skin wasn't as bright as...
Frank Pennyman at least have weapon. You have neck ribbon on the helmet now?
I never really noticed how shiny it was before.
What's shiny, Talana? His ribbon?
His skin.
The tailor inside said the ribbon was made of silk. Do you know how valuable it is? He paid for all this in silk and got money back without my discount.
Yeah, that's probably the only bright point in this stop.
I wouldn't say only. I mean, gods, man. Look at you.
So, if keep ribbon, what else Frank have that made of silk?
I had spare silk. Enough to buy this and have a little left over.
As Frank patted his coin purse, Mog turned around slowly, instincts kicking in.
We're not alone.
As the others turned, they saw a group of guards approaching them, hands upon their weapons.
Guys, let me handle this. Greetings, men. I am Prince Ulrich Egond. No need for the normal pleasantries. We were...
Good. That should make things simple.
With a motion from their sergeant, the other guards drew their weapons and surrounded them. As Ulrich held up his hands, the others did so in unison.
I want it noted that I do take offense to this form of discourtesy.
You can note it to the king himself when you see him.
Ulrich glanced at Mog, who slightly nodded. This had been the plan all along, so the group were disarmed and then marched back toward the palace. Once inside the inner grounds, the scale of the palace was much more clear. The tall walls and beautiful architecture was not lost even on Mog. The group made their way inside and were promptly escorted to the king's throne room. After being lined up in front of the king, the guard addressed the king first.
Your Grace, we found 4 of the 5 seen sneaking from the courtyard. The 5th one, wearing a barrel, is still on the loose, but my men are searching every inch of the city until they are found.
And this one, with the silk ribbon.
I found that scrawny one there with them. Looks harmless, but I did see him in the company of one of the women there.
A woman that's been in the company of most of the men in this city.
You know?
Be serious.
Silence!
King Jerriman looked the group over for a moment, then turned to his sergeant once more.
Continue your search, Sergeant. I will deal with this group of troublemakers myself and find out who sent them.
As the sergeant was showing his courtesies to the king, the rest of the group turned to Frank.
This is Frank Puny Man's chance.
I'd say it's more like it's a test.
No pressure. Just don't get us killed.
You can do it, Frank.
The king then turned his attentions back to the group.
Before you speak, let me preface your words with this thought. I am beset with enemies to myself and spies and ne'er-do-wells within my own walls. My captains assail me with reports of rumors of treasonous acts, and on the day of my request to the people to assist, I get a report of this group leaving quickly in the company of a secret, hidden adversary.
The king leaned forward and looked down upon the group.
No fool would run through a crowd of people wearing a barrel, unless his identity were enough to damn the entire group. So tell me, who are you, and why are you here in my city?
Frank was nervous. He looked to his left and right, but all of his friends' eyes were on him. Lowering his head, he knew he had to do and say something to get him out of this situation. He didn't run them through team-building exercises to not use those skills when it counted. Besides, if he were thrown into the dungeon, he would never be able to get back in time to finish up those expense reports. Frank focused himself inward and called upon knowledge that might help him. It was then that he remembered his co-workers pressuring him into watching Game of Thrones so that he could talk with them at the water cooler. He also owned all of the Lord of the Rings trilogy on Blu-ray. Taking 2 steps forward, he dropped to one knee, raised his eyes to meet the king's eyes directly, and he said, "Well, what did Frank say? To be honest, I'm not entirely sure myself. Remember when I told you that you, the listener, would be the steward of poor Frank's fate? Well, you are. What will Frank do next? You tell us. Please visit letsbefrankthepodcast.com and click on the What Would Frank Do button, and in 500 characters or less, tell us what you think Frank should do next. Remember, you are the fates controlling Frank's fate. Let's try not to let him down. Some of the music and sound effects in this podcast come from Tabletop Audio. If you are running a game, the perfect background music and sound effects can be difficult to assemble. But with Tabletop Audio, you can play songs fitting your campaign and use sword clangs and magical bursts to set the mood for the adventure and take your game to the next level. For your next RPG game, visit tabletopaudio.com. The rest of the music comes from Kevin MacLeod's brilliant website, incompetech.com. If you're looking for music for your podcast, Kevin has composed more than 2,000 royalty-free songs released under the Creative Commons license. So when you need music, think incompetech.com and tell him that Frank sent you. Oh, he doesn't actually know Frank. Joanna just thought it'd be funny.